Hello and welcome to the Tennis Menus Daily ATP Final Show. Val Febo here with you, and we've got a big program lined up for you today. And remember, you can limber with Lauren, our very own package run by Lauren Scopel, inspired by gymnastics-based training to help you stay injury-free. Just $59.90 US per year on the tennismenu.com. So get around that. It's absolutely fantastic. But today we do have a big show. Novak Djokovic pretty untroubled against Diego Schwartzman after an early scare. And also, Daniil Medvedev becomes the first Russian in 11 years to claim an ATP Finals win. We'll tell you who the last player was as well. And stay tuned if you want a Tennis Menu subscription discount. We'll tell you what to do around the end of the show. Stay tuned because we will have a discount code for you as well. So keep in touch with us there. But we've got to do the show we can't do the show without these two men today. And look at them, they're all raring to go, and they're so excited. Joel just looks absolutely beaming with positivity today. And how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm going all right, man. I thought you were going to say you're going to do the show without me. I was like, I'll just head off then.
No, I kind of muddled up my words there, but no, it's good to see you, Joel Ferrucci there, but the best high performance coach in the business. That is why his head is so big, and I haven't allowed him to leave his room at all since the US Open. Mark Safoulis, how are you?
I'm going well, thanks, Val. And overnight, obviously, some pretty standard results, I think, but good to see some really good tennis. So I'm really loving this time of year. I think it's obviously the guys are happy to be playing after the year that we've had, but some incredible matches with the top 8 players, obviously going head to head, and some really interesting news in the tennis world over the last couple of hours, which I thought was pretty interesting. The tennis is at the forefront of our minds, which I'm absolutely loving.
Yep, it definitely is, and that interesting news we will get to later on in the show, because it's not quite what you'd expect. Okay, we'll leave you hanging on the laughter, so you probably understand what it is already. But Daniil Medvedev, we'll start with him, and what a big win it was for him over Alexander Zverev. In their previous 7 encounters, the only 2 wins that Medvedev had over the German were in Masters 1000 finals. Zverev actually led that head-to-head before the Paris final 2 weeks ago, 5-1. Now it's 5-3. Medvedev winning again, 6-3, 6-4. But Mark, it was the serve of Zverev that, proving his undoing again. And we spoke about this in the French Open. We spoke about it at length during the US Open, but still no sign of improvement from that second serve. And 21% of second serve points won for Zverev, 4 out of 19, faced 9 break points for a guy with his serve. That's not easy.
Yeah, 100% right. And I feel like, when you look at the second serve points won at 21%, it's his undoing right there. 7 double faults. So he was a -4 on his serve. So that's aces compared to double faults was a -4, whereas Medvedev was a +2. So you've got a -6 on serve just from that perspective. And then to look at second serve points won, he was at a -8 compared to Medvedev. He was at 21%. He only won 69% of his first serve points on a slick hard court, where obviously you'd expect him, the player that he is with the serve that he has, to dominate a little bit more on the serve. And this just goes back to what we've talked about in previous shows. It was offense wins games and wins matches, but defense will win you titles. Now, it was the defensive skills of Daniil Medvedev that kept him in this match, that nullified the serve ascendancy, that kept him in the points, the slick hard court where he was able to absorb and counterpunch as much as he did, compared to the offensive, skills of Zverev, where a lot of errors did come into the game today from Alex Zverev. And, it's not going to win him this title if he's going to go out there and make as many mistakes as he did, and obviously serve at the inconsistency levels that he did. So, well done to Daniil Medvedev. Obviously, he won 74% of his first serve points, which, at the end of the day, Daniil doesn't rely on his serve, but for him to win that amount of points on his first serve and over 50%, but 57% on his second serve is a huge number for a guy that doesn't have an overall massive serve, or known as a player that has that.
Yeah, we'll talk about peaking at the right time for Daniil Medvedev. He's playing really good tennis, and I think the next test will be up against Novak Djokovic, and they're gonna headline the next day's action for this group, for Group London 2020. So that one is exciting. But Joel, looking at Alexander Zverev, mentally, the allegations of domestic violence would surely be weighing on him. And there was a moment in his press conference last night, they had a full body shot of him because it was all virtual and off air. What was he doing?
Yeah, well, it was quite a bizarre moment. So he was in his virtual media conference in the, as you will, the virtual media room. And from what I could gather, he was asked a question about those allegations, and he was answering the question. And this was all on the BBC, and they panned to a sort of full body shot of Alex Zverev sitting there in the chair, and he had his phone perched on his thigh. So like when he was answering the question, as he was answering the question, he was looking down at his phone and taking some rather long pauses during his answer. So I could only make of it that he was taking prompts from the phone, so he wouldn't say anything that he would potentially regret. So clearly, to me, he had a script ready to go for a question like that, which again, it's just not a good look. The whole thing's been so poorly handled. But yeah, I mean, I do wonder, Val. It's a valid question. Just how much, if at all, it is beginning to potentially weigh on him. I mean, when we think back to Bercy in Paris, he obviously made the final against Daniil, as we spoke about yesterday, and he didn't win that match, but he had this kind of siege mentality, and on the face of it, it didn't really seem to be affecting him at all. But again, I mean, the greater the silence, the longer this drags on, you can really only assume that it is going to affect him in some way.
Yeah, and I think so. And the longer this does drag on, you're right, it is going to affect him. And Mark, as a coach, when your pupil has someone or something externally going on, how do you try and assist them in dealing with that? Because this is obviously an extreme situation, but there could be something that's a little bit more low key that they're struggling to deal with. How do you make sure that they deal with that in the proper manner so that it doesn't affect their on-court performance? Because it's so difficult to perform in one area when there's such a big distraction in another facet of your life.
Yeah, that's one of the toughest things of a coach, isn't it? Like we find that as a tour coach, I found that I was more of a mentor, a manager, a sports psychologist than I was a coach. Because at the end of the day, these players do have a life outside of the game. And I always talk about you're a person much longer than you are a tennis player. You play tennis for a certain amount of time. Tennis player is not your identity. You're a human being. And this is the biggest thing, is that all these players, and they may not show up in the media or in the forefront of everything, but they are going through stuff every single day. We just don't hear about it. They go through marriage breakups, they go through tough times with, kids, and they go tough times with media, or they've got, people trying to, get them to throw matches through betting agencies. They've got, people trying to scam them for money because they've, had a previous relationship with them in the past. We don't hear all this stuff, but it goes on behind the scenes, and it's happened a lot in players that I've worked with. And I feel like, as a coach, you are almost like a secondary parent to them in advice, in mentorship, in being that person to cry with, to laugh with, to keep their mind off things off the court. There's so many things that you've got to do as a coach. And, we don't see all the stuff play out in the media. We don't. And there's a lot of things going on. And I know Novak Djokovic had a really tough year a few years back. And, as a coach, you've got to support them. The first thing you've got to support them with is their life, not their tennis. Their tennis is secondary. If their life is screwing up behind the scenes, it's going to screw their tennis up. So you need to support them as a human being. And it comes down to relationships, trust, and all that sort of stuff that we talk about as coaches. It is the most important part of you being a coach, is building that strong relationship where your athlete can tell you anything they're going through, and you can support them in any way they need to be supported. And at the end of the day, I know we get paid to do a job of coaching, but doing a job of coaching doesn't happen unless they've got their stuff sorted off the court. And right now, Zverev is going through a really challenging time. And I do hope that he's going okay, because it is not easy for what he's going through, to play at the highest level of the game, to be at the forefront of the media, everyone having a crack at him left, right, and center. It must not be easy to perform. And look, I hope that he's got the right people around him, because it can end very poorly if it continues to go and put pressure on him.
Yep, and I think the lucky thing for him, guys, is that his dad is one of his direct coaches. So having your father there, I guess, is going to help a little bit. And David Ferrer, as well, being part of that coaching team, years and years and years of experience on tour. So I think if those two mix together to try and give him the advice and try and help him. But look, if these allegations are true, which it's looking like they very well could be. There's not really much that they can say because he's dug his own hole and he needs to line it. So this is such a serious situation, and it's an extreme, but they'd have to have the tools in place, like you said, to try and make sure that he can perform at his highest while he's playing. So after this tournament, I think he'll probably go slide away out of the spotlight for a little bit and deal with these allegations privately. But we'll move on to the next match, and it was Novak Djokovic over Diego Schwartzman early on in the day in London. And Djokovic, after being down a break early in the opening set, broke back, and then from then on, he was in cruise control over the little Argentine. I was going to say young, he's not the youngest, but 6-3, 6-2 there for Novak Djokovic. And look, it was the result that we pretty much predicted. We said it to be fairly comfortable. Probably didn't think he'd get broken, but average serve mark, probably about 64%. But I think the second serve points was really where the match was won, wasn't it?
It was. I think the points won on first and second serve. I mean, Djokovic isn't known for his serving prowess. He's basically won 77% of his first serve points. He's won 65% of his second serve points, which is an inflated number. I mean, that should never be anywhere near that on a second serve. The courts are slick. The courts are really, really fast. The serve is a big factor. You almost can take a little bit of speed off and make sure the consistency level's up because it's very hard to return on that surface. Whereas Diego Schwartzman was 35% second serve points won, 63 on the first serve. So he was well below. He was 30% below on the second serve points. So that's what's really hurt him in this match. And we did say that, unfortunately, Diego Schwartzman is a poor man's Novak Djokovic. And literally not at that level. And, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, an amazing athlete, but they are very, very similar in characteristics of the game style, except Novak does it 30% better. And that's where the difference was. Joel mentioned it yesterday on the show, and there's no doubt that, Novak was just a class above in this match.
Yeah, and Joel, we've seen so many times that these sorts of players have tried to come up against the Murrays, against the Djokovic's, with very similar games, but they don't try and work out how to, or they don't just have the assets on what they can do or how to be better. They might beat them 1 out of every 5 or 6 times, but it's not going to be enough. And we saw this with Kei Nishikori was one of the main ones where his game is so similar to what Murray and Djokovic's were, but you just can't get over the line against them.
Yeah, and I think the key difference, particularly with Novak, and we talk about it a lot, he just has that ability just to turn the defense into offense in that split second, which I think is really important. But in Diego's case as well, I think it was always going to be the problem with him, not so much with Novak, but certainly going into Daniil Medvedev and Alex Zverev. I guess the question is just how he can make up the height, and unfortunately, that's always going to be the problem with a guy like Diego, as good as a season as he's had, and we know he can beat these guys. But the question that you just always have to ask when he goes up against these big players, figuratively and literally, is how he can make up that extra 15, 20 centimeters. Really, it's a big gap to make up.
Yep, and you look at Diego's career, and I think the stats kind of speak for themselves. This guy has had such an amazing year, 25 wins, 12 losses, got himself inside the top 10, but 168, 140 career win-loss ratio. It's just over 50% and only 3 titles. So that's where you can see this guy is a consistency-based performer, and he's never going to win many titles. And when he does, it's fantastic. But sometimes it's really hard for a guy like that to just string these results together, because you're going to come up against players that are tricky for someone of that height. And that's why I think what Diego has done this year has been so impressive to qualify for the ATP finals. But I just think against these top quality players, and if we look at his win-loss record against top 10 players throughout his career, he's 9-32. And this is where things get a little bit more tricky for someone like a Schwartzman, where you can beat the guys outside the top 10, but when you get into that next echelon of players that are going to exploit you for every weakness that you have, it's going to be difficult. And that's where he struggled. I don't think he's ever beaten Federer, only just beaten Nadal for the first time this year. And he's never beaten Novak Djokovic before in 6 attempts. Has pushed him a couple of times, but never beaten him. And this is where I think that the height, Joel, is probably going to be the factor for the rest of this tournament. Don't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And he's not playing short guys either, is he? No. Alex Zverev and Daniil Medvedev, like Mark said, not necessarily, certainly in Daniil's case, doesn't necessarily rely on the serve, but it's still a pretty good serve. And yeah, I guess, Diego is a good returner. But yeah, you just wonder how he goes and compensates for the power if those guys really get on top of him.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Joel. I think, we look at every single player in the world has a ceiling. And I feel like Schwartzman's probably reached his ceiling of potential. But in saying that, like we did say as well, he's in the top 8 players in the world. So it's not like he's a slouch. He's going to be there. He's going to be consistent. He's going to turn up week to week. He's going to be, around the quarters or around the 16 every single event he's at. It's just that little, 5 or 10% of serve or bigger ground stroke that can really hurt the opponent is where he sort of falls down a little bit. And against someone like Novak Djokovic, you have to take the game to him. Otherwise, he's just going to take it away from you. And he just wasn't able to do that today. And it's like we did say, it is his ceiling. I think there's not much else that he can really do in terms of performance. He's almost gone beyond what he's been capable of. I think he's achieved more than what his height and ability shows. And, it's a bloody credit to him. I think it's an incredible feat that he's been able to get to this point in his career at the height he is. And that probably the circumstances he's had to overcome in his whole life, in the country he's grown up in the resources they had to where he is today. It's an absolute credit to him, but just probably falling a little bit short in this category.
Yep, and that's what I was going to say. I honestly, I never thought I'd see Diego Schwartzman at this event. Never. So to see him here, and you don't see many people his height actually winning tournaments. I think Victor Estrella Burgos is one that he came on sort of 2015, was one of my favorite players just for the cult hero status that he had. 173 centimeters, won 3 titles, all at the same event, back to back years. To see them go and reach this ceiling, it's just a credit to their work rate and what they've been able to achieve and how hard that they actually push. And you see with Schwartzman, he does push hard. That's his strength, his endurance. He's able to do it. And I think the thing that bodes well for him is for the rest of this tournament, the next match he plays is against Alexander Zverev. 2 of his 9 top 10 wins have come over, or actually, the first meeting that they had, Zverev wasn't in the top 10, but one of his top 10 wins anyway has come against Zverev. They're 2-2 head-to-head. And the last meeting was in Cologne a few weeks ago in the final, in the second event there. Zverev won that 6-2, 6-1. But the time before, the 2019 US Open, Schwartzman won in 4. So that's going to be interesting to see what he can do against Zverev, who's got other things on his mind, and to see if he can really get under the German skin. So that's one I'm really looking forward to. That's in 2 days' time. Djokovic and Medvedev, the 2 winners. The group standings as it is at the moment, we see Novak Djokovic, number 1, based on the amount of games won. So he's at 70.59% of games won. Medvedev is 63.16%. So that puts Zverev in number 3 in the group, and Schwartzman languishing in bottom spot. And we'll give you an update on the other group, Group London 2020. So I mixed up the groups. That was Group Tokyo 1970. These group names are so stupid. They really are. But Rafael Nadal leading on game or on sets at the moment at 100% sets. So they rank it by sets and then games if they've won the same amount and lost the same amount. So Nadal top, team 2, Tsitsipas 3, and Andrei Rublev 4 as we get into tonight's matches. And it is going to be a massive night. Have I said massive? Night of tennis. Because it is Rafael Nadal against Dominic Thiem. This is the match that we so desperately wanted at the French Open. The King of Clay versus what we think is going to be the heir apparent at Roland Garros. We didn't get it. We did get it at the Australian Open earlier on this year, and it was Dominic Thiem who was the man that came up trumps. Their head-to-head, compared to Nadal's head-to-heads against a lot of other top 10 players, is fairly even. It's 9-5 in favour of the Spaniard, but Thiem has won 2 of the last 3 matches. This is where things get really interesting, and it's really exciting to see. Thiem's hard court game has improved drastically. His indoor hard court game is really exciting to watch. And he was a finalist here last year, Joel. Do you give him, or who do you see winning this match?
Yeah, it's a really, really tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was actually hoping you wouldn't ask me who I thought I was going to win, Val, because I'm really not sure. But I mean, look, if you look at both players, Rafa turned back the clock against Andre Rublev. As jittery as Andre was, take nothing away from Rafa, because he was exceptional, and we were querying how he was going to adjust to the courts. No problem there. We really never should have doubted him. I don't know why I still doubt him to this very day after everything that he's done. He just keeps winning and keeps proving us wrong. But the opposite side of the coin is Dominic Thiem, who's had a very, very good year, mainly, funnily enough, on hard court. He's had a great year on hard, and he's really showing no signs of slowing down. Really, the only probably the only sort of dip for him was at the French Open, where he really just looked really fatigued after going in and winning that maiden slam title at the US Open. And of course, he had a nice little test against Stefanos Tsitsipas in the opening match of this final series. He got that win in 3. It was a pretty even match, admittedly, but look, he did look pretty good. So look, having said all that, I'm no closer to deciding who's going to win. But look, I think I'm going to stick with Dominic Thiem. I did pick him to top this group in our preview show, so I think I might go with Dominic, which pretty much means that Rafa is going to win.
That does generally happen, but if this makes you feel any better out of your picks, the head-to-head outside of Roland Garros is 5-all. They met 4 times there, and of course, Rafa has won all 4. So that must make things a little bit better. But these two have had some epic encounters over the years, Mark. And if that's anything to go by, we are in for a corker of a match. And if you look back at the 2018 US Open quarterfinal, Thiem took the first set off Rafa 6-love in that match. So he's got the capabilities to blow Nadal off the court. We saw at the Australian Open this year in the quarters as well. Thiem went with him pound for pound. And that's not something many players can do. They play a very similar sort of style of game. Thiem, obviously, with a one-handed backhand, so doesn't help him as much as what a two-hander probably would against Nadal. But I just think the power that he can generate, I really think he's got the capabilities to do this one pretty quickly tonight. But it is Nadal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like if Nadal serves the way he did in the first round, I don't think Thiem will stand a chance in this match. Just the lefty swing on the sliding courts, to the single-handed backhand. That to me would be the telling factor. If he can get Thiem out of his comfort zone, get him slicing a little bit more than what he normally would, and have to slice the return of serve, and that will give obviously Nadal the first strike in the rally. I think Nadal will win the match. If Nadal's not serving at that level, and not getting the balls to where he needs to, and not being able to really rip the ball up on that single-handed backhand on Thiem, then obviously Dominic Thiem is a really good show. But, I'm going to stick with Nadal. Obviously, I picked him at the start of the tournament to have a really good event. I know his results at this event haven't been notoriously good, but I still feel like he's got the capabilities to do it. Hopefully he's learned his lessons on this court itself, where it's quicker. The slice serve really playing a factor. And if he can take control the way he did in the first round, then yeah, I would say Nadal. But you're right. This is going to be an absolute belter of a match. I think this is going to be, one to watch in terms of the quality of hitting. Who knows if we'll go to 3 or if it's going to be a close 2-setter. But the quality of ball striking in this match is going to be one to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to be so grumpy in the morning, guys, just letting you know, because I'm going to be staying up late to watch this. And but yeah, I'm super excited. I think Thiem is going to win. I just think he's got the proven record at this tournament now, which is really exciting. So yeah, I reckon Thiem might win this one in a really close 3-setter. The next match that we do have on our hands is a rivalry that we've seen sort of blossom over the last few years. And their first meeting was at a challenger, but they don't really count in the ATP head-to-heads. But in 2017, they then met in the semi-finals of the Next Gen Finals in 2018. So we've watched them blossom over their careers from the Next Gen Finals now to the Nitto ATP Finals. I think this is the first head-to-head matchup that we've seen that have both played at the Next Gen Finals and the ATP finals, which is so exciting for these two. But it's Andrei Rublev and Stefanos Tsitsipas. Head-to-head, it's 2-2. They've met in two pretty big matches this year. The Roland Garros quarterfinals went to Tsitsipas in straight sets, but the Hamburg final 2 weeks before that went to Rublev, who, Tsitsipas choked. Let's just put it nicely. He choked. So this match, I think, is going to be exciting to see how we how we go through it and how these two players go through it. But Joel, I genuinely, after the first match with how jittery Rublev was, I can't pick it.
Well, I'm kind of leaning towards Tsitsipas at this point in time, but I think the fact that Rublev lost against Rafa in the opening match is almost, in some respects, a blessing in disguise in terms of the way that I think he'll approach this match. The fact that he has already lost a match means that he is going to have to go into this match really looking to swing freely and attack Tsitsipas, I would have thought, because if he leaves anything on the court, well, the reality is that his campaign is done. So he's going to have to really go out and swing freely. And I feel like Andrei Rublev, having watched him this season, when he's at his best and when he's feeling confident, when he's feeling free and loose, he's really, really good to watch. So I really hope that that's the Rublev that we see. But at this point, I'm more leaning towards Tsitsipas, even though we did go down against Team. He looked pretty solid.
Yep, I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Mark, well, whoever loses this one is done. That's it for them for this ATP Finals campaign. They still do have a match to play, but whoever wins is pretty much out of contention to get through to the semi-finals. For you, what are the keys?
Look, I think it's going to be an interesting match. As you said, I think Rublev struggled to handle pressure in his first match. He really, really struggled to perform. And now this is only just compounded by if you lose, you're out. So I feel like the pressure is compounded in this match. And Tsitsipas didn't play a bad match against Tomic team, and I think the courts suit him a little bit better. I think that's going to be the telling factor is, the flatter grips of Tsitsipas where he can really hit through the court. Very, very, very similar to the Medvedev Djokovic kind of mold where they can hit through the court a little bit flatter through the ball on a faster surface. Doesn't need as much time to wind up on the shot, whereas Rublev needs the time, and that's where I think he may be able to catch Rublev off guard. And I think Tsitsipas has the better serve out of the two. So, I really think that's going to be the telling factor. We've looked at it already. The winners of all the matches so far have had the better serve on the day. So if it's going to follow that same suit, I'm going to look at Tsitsipas probably being the favourite a little bit here. Rublev hasn't quite hit his straps just yet, but we know what he's capable of. So if he does start to find form, then who knows? But, I'll go with Tsitsipas in this match. I think that he showed good enough form in that first round against Tomic team. And I think he can probably just pressure the depth of the court a little bit more and not give Rublev the time and space that he wants to be able to wind up and really rip into those forehands.
Yep, I think so. So you're going tonight, Mark. Is it Rafa and Tsitsipas?
Yeah, I'll go Rafa and Tsitsipas tonight.
And Joel, is it Team and Tsitsipas?
That's right, yep.
Yep, I'm going Team and Rublev tonight. I think Rublev, just the way he's played all season, I think he's just got something to prove tonight just to say, look, I'm here. I'm not making up the numbers. I had a good year. I've won 5 titles. I'm not going to go away. So I think Rublev might get the job done tonight. I don't think his year is quite over yet. But remember, guys, you can head to thetennismenu.com, and we do have a very big special. We mentioned this at the start of the show today. So Daily Show 10, if you type this, comment on our Facebook page, Daily Show 10. This will give you a 10% discount to the $99.90 US subscription to thetennismenu.com. And remember, this subscription is going to make you a better tennis coach, going to make you a better tennis player. It's going to give you all the tips. Mark, you've done such a wonderful job of putting this catalog of work together. We are not worthy of you as a tennis coach. But yeah, Daily Show 10% discount to this $99.90 US price. You don't want to miss out. If you comment that on our Facebook page, comment it or put it in on the I think it's on the website, isn't it, Mark, as well?
Yep.
So don't comment on the Facebook page. Put it on the website. Ignore me. Put it on the website. When you buy a subscription, Daily Show 10, grab that because it is absolutely amazing. Mark and Nick have done such an amazing job of putting that together. But before we do go, guys, we mentioned some bit of news off the top of the show.
Oh.
We Bernard Tomic, adult film star. Mark as a coach.
Yeah, good on him. Good on him. I think good on him. If one thing's not working, you're taught as a coach to get them to change their pathway.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would advise that pathway, but if things aren't working, you've got to change it. And yeah, I mean, there's some interesting photos of Bernie online, but good on him, and wish him all the best in his new career change. And he'll be definitely hitting a few more races in that industry as he goes along. So hopefully all goes well. And yeah, I mean, shout out to Big Bernie.
Yep.
Tell you what, boys, I'm just going to say I'm really excited for the 2040 year-end finals when we have Group Radek, Stepanek, and Group Bernie Tomic. That's going to be really fun.
Well, look, Radek Stepanek probably has a good 14 years on Bernie, so that might come a little bit earlier. But yeah, Radek has a very big reputation, So no, that's. Oh God, this has gotten very loose. We probably shouldn't have gone down this path, but no, it's good luck to Bernie with whatever he does. He's still 224th in the world, so by no means a slouch. So let's hope that. I would like to see him come back on the tennis court and fulfill that potential that he does have, because watching him play over the years has given me great joy. I used to love watching him in the early days when. That quirky game style was so difficult to predict for so many players on the tour. So fingers crossed we can see him back on the court. But for now, good luck and go for your life. But remember, you can head back, as I said before, head to the tennismenu.com to grab that $99.90 US subscription to the tennis menu with over 600 tennis specific drills and resources to make you a better tennis coach. And remember, Daily Show 10 is your code if you want to put that in on the website for a 10% discount. Joel Ferrucci, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting tennis and a little bit more with you today.
Yeah, no worries, boys. I'm off to watch Bernie. I'll see you soon.
Just hang up now, Joel. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. And don't forget also at the Tennis Menu, we do have a free webinar coming up on Tuesday, the 25th of November.
Isn't it the Wednesday?
Oh, Wednesday, 25th of November. You can get your spot booked by just going we've got it all over our social media. So just go there and check it out. Free webinar on basically the coaching journey, the success stories of all the top players and how they got there, and obviously how you can make yourself a better coach or tennis player. So yeah, jump on there, and Val and I will be doing a nice little interview over about an hour. So it'll be good fun.
No, it will be, definitely. And remember, you can subscribe to the Tennis Menu emailing list on the website as well. So subscribe to the blog newsletter and subscribe it to the mailing list as well. There was a great blog last night written by Callum Metcher on the sleep cycles that you need for optimum recovery and rest as well. So if you enjoy sleeping naked, you'll enjoy this article. And I think we'll leave the show right there. Val Febo, Mark Sapors, and Joel Ferrucci joining us here joining you here on the Tennis Menu's daily ATP final show. We'll promise we'll be good tomorrow.